this kind of goes back to what Gary's talking about with the trust, but as far as the positions itself, on the offensive side more than anything, like I'm looking at running backs, where's been the consistent development there? Wide receivers, which were supposed to be that much better this year, where's that growth period? And then, of course, offense coordinator, I think, goes without saying as far as the disconnect and some of the inconsistencies we've seen there. I think it's not ideal, obviously, but if you're serious about this program, and I'd like to believe Matt Rule is still very, very serious about this program, that you look through all of that stuff and you understand that, hey, if these are necessary changes, that we need to find people. He's got a large network outside of just his boys, if you will, that it's I'd like to think that there is a list that he possesses of people that he would like to be able to contact and bring in if he ultimately makes those decisions, which I think there's going to be some very important decisions to be made.
Lance, do you think he's already made a decision on Marcus Satterfield? Lance hung up.
He'll hang up and listen.
He had some great stuff.
It's very, very simple. Are you getting the bang for your buck?
Yeah.
With your offensive
You're
coordinator?
paying over $1 million for
now,
a guy.
I think if they run this back, then you just abandon hope.
Mm-hmm.
But Mosey will be an on-field coach next year. Where will he be coaching?
That's a good question, too, because...
Will he be the running back coach next year?
And am I off by, as far as gauging the temperature of what people think about with certain coaches? I get Satterfield's names brought up all the time. And then it seems like more recently it's gone Satterfield to McGuire. I don't feel like E.J. Barthel's name is brought up as much. But when you look at that position group, that is an area. How many times have we talked about the running backs, the lack of development, the fact that you have, the way I described it on Saturday to some friends was you have a variation of good running backs that don't really do anything explosive. Some do this good where the other doesn't. Some do this good, but that one doesn't do it. So but none of them ever like, well, what this guy does the best though is going to lead you to home runs. It's going to lead you to the explosive plays that you need in the offense. It's going to give you that security in the running game, even when blocking isn't maybe necessarily there at times. But also the teaching part of it, we saw this in the Ohio State game. We saw it at times last week. We've seen it throughout the season. Just overall vision, when to get skinny through holes, all those things that you always see and talked about, that none of it really jives with this group. And so sometimes you're just limited with the group you have. I understand that. But also, at what point have you seen this, any guys in the running back room in the last 2 years take a major step forward, take any step forward?
Now, I'm vibing with you, and we've discussed this ad nauseum about the running back rotation. Doesn't make sense. They don't have the Caleb Johnson. Think about this. The scary thing about Nebraska offensively during the last 3 games is there's nobody walking through the door to give this offense a spark.
Right.
All of a sudden, there's going to be a guy that comes off the IL, and here we go.
Yep.
Or there's like new offensive coordinator. He's got a little bit more creativity. He's going to start dialing some things up. Iowa's offense was beleaguered. They hired a guy who they're no longer the punchline. Brian Ferentz West is now the punchline of offensive coordinating in the Big Ten.
Such a good nickname.
But Caleb Johnson helped spark a beleaguered offense.
Yeah.
Nebraska doesn't have that guy, and even more so at running back.
He was on the roster, too.
I think your best player on offense is Ja'Cory Barney.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Ja'Cory Barney might be the best player in the program right now next to Ty Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
That's
also agree with that. Ty's
okay.
playing really good.
Ja'Cory Barney is a freshman. And Nebraska's inability to move the pile on first down. They had 14 first down runs on Saturday, 2.9 yards. Now, they never had a run over 14 yards. Their running back room is what it is. It's just a bunch of guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, like watching Dowdell, and I don't know if this becomes a coaching thing or what. His vision is mind-boggling. If he could just work on his vision, because I don't think you're ever going to take I love my contact out of him.
Yeah.
If you could change Dowdell's vision, think what that could do to him. Because I saw him do a couple of things in the second half that I thought, man, an offseason with a really good position coach that knows the position and sees what everybody else sees, he might be okay. I still don't think RB1 for 25 is on your roster, but my opinion changed a little slightly about Dowdell. I think there's something there, but you got to fix the vision, because there were times where if he would have bounced just left, or he could see the hole as you're coming up, and he just looks right, okay, you're 5, 6, 7 yards instead of 1 or 2.
Right.
But operationally, Nebraska is not very good on offense. But here's my counter argument, and because I'm going to give you both sides. If you're thinking Rule's got to make a move, he's also in the back of his mind saying, man, we got some plays that are dialed up and we're just not executing them. Because sitting up high on Saturday, they were open.
You're seeing the all-22 again. Yeah.
They were open.
Yeah.
They were open. That would be your counter argument to, you got to get rid of your OC, Matt. Yeah. When he walks into the coffee shop this morning and he's like, we got to get our quarterback better.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to this about lack of creativity, predictable, all that kind of stuff.
And that's the thing that good on you to bring that up, because if we're going to go all in on Marcus Satterfield, the majority of people that are doing that, you're watching it from the television. So you're not seeing deep downfield. We've talked about this several times, even last year. I remember saying this a few times, but early this year too, there's some slick play designs in there where you do get certain people that are open, whether they're not found, or you understand the idea behind the play.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. And then, so if we're going to say, well, but then the counter of that is, okay, where's the consistency, the flow of it too? Why are you throwing 8 passes in a row in a game? Why in this case are you running the ball 5 straight times where you're getting success, and then all of a sudden you abandon that, and then you come up empty on that drive? So it's not even necessarily the designs. That's never really been my problem with Marcus Satterfield ever. It's the flow of it. It's when you're calling certain plays at what time, and when you're seeing certain things work, why do you get away from it? All of that is fair.
This program has a major problem. And this isn't just a Satterfield problem, a Rule. It also is players. Nebraska has zero in-game feel.
100%.
The situational football awareness.
Everything is so hard.
From helmets to headsets is unbelievable.
They make offense look so damn hard.
People are clamoring for Harburg. He's played enough football. What the hell is he doing?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. Well, we got to get to Jim. Yeah. Good morning, Jim. Welcome to Mornings with Sharp and Hanley. Jim? I think Jim had called back. Jim, 3 times is a lucky one. Here is Scott, who was at the game on Saturday. Good morning, Scott.
Morning, gentlemen. So, like everybody else, I walked out of that stadium and I was 4-letter words all the way to my car talking about Satterfield and Foley and everything like that. And as I was reflecting on it on Sunday, the in-person view is a little bit different than you can see on TV. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the pick right at the start of the third quarter, Fedoni was completely uncovered. He was wide open. Yep. So I don't know if Raiola is a little shell-shocked, because at moments he's running for his life back there. But I particularly watched Jamal Banks on 3 consecutive pass plays. And on one play, he actually toasted his man up and had him turn the completely wrong direction. But Jamal Banks was going so lackadaisical that the guy did a complete 360 spin and was able to, within 3 steps, be covering him again. And Jamal Banks was absolutely, it looked like he was going at like 30%. And so my point is, I used to believe, now would have been in college in the 80s, I used to believe as a Husker fan, it was utterly impossible for me to care about that team and that university more than the guys on the football field. There was no chance that I cared about that team more than they did, because it all comes down to accountability, desire, and attitude. And I don't necessarily think that's the truth anymore. And it really bothers me. Obviously, Jimmy's and Joe's matter, but heart and integrity are a huge component to success of a team, and I am ultimately just petrified of what I saw on Saturday.
Well, Scott, let me ask you this real quick. I'm going to add to this. You said heart and integrity and all of that. What about just overall buy-in to what you're doing as any member of that offense? A buy-in to what is happening that I always want to believe a Division I, a Power 4 football player is going to give maximum effort, but can it come across as they're either being lackadaisical or there's hesitation because they just don't buy into what they're doing or they don't buy into that certain play or something like that? I mean, and I'm not trying to excuse it. I'm just saying, can you add that into the element of it, of the overall buy-in of what you're doing offensively?
To a point, but, I guess I hadn't really thought of it that way, but I guess if you're asking me to run this route, I'm going to run it to the best of my ability, no matter when I run it, no matter what the situation is. And I'm not, okay. I always grew up with the mentality, it's not for me to question why, but to do and die, Okay. And
yeah, that's fair.
It's possible that they don't buy in, but then it's a bigger problem than what we originally thought. Because now
that's
you got talent,
scary, but
talent that doesn't care gets beat by guys that care every day, all day. You know the rule.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen.
Scott, thanks. I don't agree with that there is no buy-in or a lack of buy-in. I think there is something about the process during the week and then what gets to Saturday. Because guys saying, well, we were surprised. We didn't know that was coming. Mm-hmm. That's startling. So what's going on during the week? What is being taught? What is being allowed to happen? What is the disconnect that the head coach is preaching process and guys are looking at the scoreboard? Also Saturday was the day that the sermonizing ended.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Saturday became
was pretty
what
black
do
and
you
white.
do on the field? Mm-hmm. The field is your scoreboard.
Yep.
Not we got really good guys. They're in the community. They go to school. That's the day that 21 games in, it shifted to what are you doing on the field?
And I'm glad
that's how they'll be judged in the last 3 games.
You're right. And I'm glad there wasn't a philosophical post-game presence there from the head coach. Because that needed to be disappointing.
I'm going to say this, Nick. I don't think Rule was surprised on what happened on Saturday. If they would have pulled that game out, he would have said all the right things.
Yeah, yes.
And then walked away and said to his wife, holy moly.
Yeah, we got lucky.
Yep.
We stole one.
I'm going off how quickly he just made a comment, got to questions. Mm-hmm. That didn't surprise him. So now we need to ask the question, why?
Yep.
What happened from getting on a plane in Columbus to taking the field on Saturday against UCLA where you were flat? Mm-hmm. What happened there? That's the why that needs to be answered, because that's the missing part of things that Rule has preached that they're going to do. Good in the red zone, going to run for 75 yards in the fourth quarter. We're about the process. Where Saturday, it's just, boys, let's just go play, because you know what? We've had a hard week and we put it in, and that's what's getting us. The training is going to take care of us on Saturday. Where has all of that gone? Where's all of that gone in the teaching and the talent, which combines together? And Nebraska's in a weird spot right now because they're in a transition, but they're not good enough in one area to just go, I got it. Don't worry about it, coach. Don't worry about it, Dylan. We got it. We're going to win. They're not that good.
Well, and
that's a good one area.
Trying to figure out this team's approach week in and week out is one of the most complex and maddening things to do. So with how you break this down, Gary, let me ask you this question then. If everything is on the table the way it was on Saturday, you're at home, you have a chance to be bowl eligible, and you're going up against a team that, yes, they're coming off of a bye week, and a team that you're seeing on film that's you're seeing, hey, they're better than what their record is. But come on, man, we're hosting this game. This is much different.
Yeah, a lot on the line.
Yes,
yep, a lot on the line.
The only reason you don't have, we'll just call it because it's been used so much this year, the juice. You don't have the juice to open up the game, or you don't have the juice throughout the game.
Well, that was the first game that I thought that was a bring your own juice game.
Yeah. But when you don't have that, this sounds crazy to even ask, but I'm just going to ask you. Were they feeling themselves too much going into that game, coming off the Ohio State game? which seems crazy, but I mean, isn't that the?
It's a very, very, very fair question. Very fair.
Which how does that happen?
Well, I think there's also there's the old been here we go again guys to
Yep.
the new guys. I got even more. That's you're onto something.